someone who brings his skills of both law and order and a former governor of Virginia and a presidential candidate, Governor Jim Gilmore. Come on up here, Governor.
David, thank you.
You know, you keep showing up on my show. I don't know what it is. You following me around the country?
Only the best people listen to the David Webb Show.
Jim's a good friend, good man, really has done the best he could for his state. He's reformed it, he's used technology, stood up for everyone in his state because, as I said earlier today, when you're elected to office, you represent everyone in your constituency. Go get him, Jim.
Great, thank you, David. Thank you. Thanks very much. Trevor, nice to see you again. The shy and retiring Trevor, yes indeed. I am so glad to be here with all of you today, and I want you to know that I'm here because I am a candidate for President of the United States, and I'm asking for your support, and that's why I've come to talk to you today, in order to be with you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about it for just a minute. I thought about this, and I watched a little of the video, and I said, well, I can come down here and give sort of a rah-rah speech and get you up on your feet and don't give you much to chew on or to think about. I decided to come in here today and tell you a few significant things that actually mean something. I've decided to tell you who I am and why I'm here, why I'm running for President of the United States, and what I'm going to do. And that way, you've got something to actually judge me on as I ask for your support. I'm sort of the new face, you see. You don't get to see Jim Gilmore all that much on the television. The press people don't say an awful lot about me, other than to kind of run me down a little bit from time to time, but that's okay, because I'm confident in what I have to offer to all of you. So let me give you just a sense of the biography. First of all, I'm a regular guy. I just flew in from Canada. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding about that. That's okay. No, I'm a regular guy. I was born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. My father was a working man. He was a meat cutter for Safeway stores for 45 years. My mother was a secretary. She finished her career as the secretary to the Methodist bishop. We were just regular folks out there. I went to the public high school. I finished the public high school and went to the University of Virginia, where I fell in love with the issue of national security and foreign policy, and took a degree in Russian area studies at UVA. Then I did something that the other candidates in this race didn't do. I joined the United States Army. That's right. I am the only veteran in this race. I don't know, are there any veterans in the room? Is there anybody here that's, yeah, there are veterans here. Well, I think it matters. I think it matters whether you've served in the United States military or not, and I did. And the other candidates in this race on either side, the Democrats or the Republicans, have not served in the United States military. Only I have. I'll probably say that once or twice more here before the talk is over with. I was trained to be a soldier at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was trained to be an intelligence agent at Fort Huachuca, Arizona. I was trained then in the German language at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California. And then I was sent to West Germany, where I served overseas for this country on behalf of NATO during the Cold War, at a time in which the very life of this nation was at stake. I was proud to be a soldier overseas. Well, I wasn't actually in uniform. I was in plain clothes, but I was in plenty of uniforms before I arrived in West Germany. After that, I went back to the UVA Law School, and after a period of time in private practice, I was elected to be the chief prosecutor. Then I was elected to be the Attorney General of Virginia. Then I was elected to be the governor of the state of Virginia. And along the way, I did some very exciting things as governor. I ran as governor of Virginia on the basis of a tax cut. I said that if I became the governor of the state of Virginia, I was going to reduce or eliminate the car tax in Virginia. I was swept into office. I brought in the lieutenant governor, the attorney general. Eventually, while I was there, I brought in the first majorities in the House and the Senate in the history of Virginia. We enacted the car tax cut. I did what I said I was going to do. It seems to me the Tea Party people want somebody that's running for president that does what they say they're going to do when they get into office. And I did. Yeah, I might be the new face, but I've been around. I chaired a national commission on the internet when they were trying to put more and more taxes on the internet. Funny thing happened on the way to the Pro-Tax Internet Commission. I became the chairman and joined up with some other people like Grover Norquist, and we kept taxes off the internet. We kept taxes away from the internet. More importantly than that, I was approached at that time by the Defense Department during the Clinton administration. I was asked to chair the National Commission on Terrorism and Weapons of Mass Destruction on behalf of the United States. Now, it was an official congressional commission, and I was the governor. They came to me and asked me if I would chair that commission. It was highly professional, and we did the first report, 1999, December. And at that time, we said, this is really dangerous, and we're going to have an attack in the United States. We have to get prepared. Well, this was the United States Congress that got the report. So naturally, it was ignored. Then in December, next year of 2000, we issued our second report, and we said, this is very serious. The chances of an attack in the United States are not just highly probable, but inevitable. Do something about this. It went to every member of Congress, and it was ignored. We finished our third report, sent it to the printer. I was the governor of the state, and the 9/11 attack happened. I'll tell you the story. I've got a few minutes still to talk to you about what I want to talk to you about. I'll tell you a quick story. I was actually in New York the day before the 9/11 attack, as a matter of fact, raising money for the candidate, the Republican candidate running for governor. Got back to Virginia, and I'm standing in the governor's mansion, turned on the television that morning, and the first tower of the World Trade Center was on fire. And I said, Roxanne, come around here and look at this. Some fool has lost control of his small airplane and has flown into the World Trade Center. This is incredible. So we sat there and we watched, and the second plane went into the second tower. And then at that point, at that moment, with all the experience I had, I knew that the country was under attack. Suddenly, I was a war governor. So what did I do? I picked up the phone and activated the Emergency Operations Center. I notified the state police if there was evidence of gunplay anywhere in the state of Virginia that the headquarters needed to be notified immediately. We activated the National Guard and put them on alert. Then I walked across Capitol Square to the governor's office in time to find out that the second state attacked that morning on that attack was Virginia, because the Pentagon isn't in Washington, D.C. It's in Virginia. And I had to do what was necessary that day. I made sure that the local responders had what they needed. I spoke to the people of Virginia that night to reassure them that we were doing what was necessary and to alert them as to what the danger really was. I went to the Pentagon and watched it on fire. One of my friends was in the plane that went into the Pentagon. I went to the hospital and saw the people who were there, listened to their stories about what they'd experienced. That's the experience that I bring to this, together with my position of being a veteran and a person who actually was a governor during the 9/11 attack. And I say to you all right now that this is a dangerous time. This is a very dangerous time, and you need to have somebody that has experience. This is no time to put an amateur in the White House in this time of grave danger. And meanwhile, what have we got in Washington that's going on right now? You got a failed presidency. Barack Obama's State of the Union address the other night made it very clear that he doesn't understand anything at all about the economy. We have this dangerous situation that's going on overseas. The Democratic Party is determined to turn themselves into the Socialist Party of the United States. If you don't believe me, just go ask Bernie Sanders. He'll tell you exactly what's going on. Hillary Clinton, well, you know, back in April, I went on one of the television shows and said, I thought Hillary Clinton was disqualified from the presidency of the United States. Disqualified. Because the next president has to reaffirm people's confidence in their own republic. She cannot do that. The elimination of her emails, running a foundation for giant sums of money while she's Secretary of State, she can't instill trust and confidence in the American people. That's why Hillary Clinton is disqualified, and if she were a patriot, she wouldn't be running for President of the United States. Meanwhile, the president's running a slow economy. Overseas, we are confronted by Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, as the North Koreans reminded us last week, and the Iranians this week, of the serious danger that we have facing this country. The Middle East is on fire and coming to pieces, and we are engaged, ladies and gentlemen, in an international guerrilla war that is going on right now across the world. And finally, what do we see? We see the abject humiliation of American sailors being captured by the Iranians and put down on their knees like hostages, where one of them even had to go in front of a propaganda film. Don't you think that the Iranian allies and people they're trying to persuade don't understand exactly what that means? No, they didn't have to do that. We just entered into a big deal. We're all pals, right? We're all friends now, the Americans and the Iranians. They didn't have to do that. If we were invading their space, they could have warned us off, escorted us out. They didn't have to capture our people, put them on their knees, and humiliate them in that way. And what response do we have from the president? Nothing. I'm here to tell you that President Gilmore will restore the United States military. We will be respected in the world, and we will do what's necessary to protect our people, our allies, and democracy across the Western world when I am President of the United States. Well, very quickly, listen, what kind of country are we really? Let's understand where we came from here. You know, it used to be that power all grew out of the ruler, or out of the king, or out of the parliament. America was unique in 1776. The leader, when the Declaration of Independence, a Virginian by the name of Thomas Jefferson, wrote the Declaration and said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator, with the rights of life and liberty, the pursuit of happiness." Power didn't come from the ruler or the king, and doesn't today come from the Congress or the president or the Supreme Court. It comes from our Creator, the God that gave us our rights. This has been lost. The Declaration says that governments were constituted to secure those rights, not to give those rights, to secure those rights. This has been lost, and we need to remember it right now. In the 20th century, something went wrong. Something went wrong, and it was a result of World War I, where we all of a sudden had the income tax, and the Great Depression, where a sense of things was that the American people couldn't look after themselves, and so the government had to take over people's lives, and we became a managerial society here in the United States, where there are rules, regulations, the hidden state power that grips us each and every day in the United States because of this change. A bureaucracy, a nameless, faceless bureaucracy that imposes nameless, faceless rules on the people of the United States. We are no longer citizens who have rights in accordance with the Declaration. We are now consumers of things and consumers of information, where a threatening control more and more and more comes along. One commentator described it as an iron cage that we are in now in the 21st century. In the 20th century, it was created that way, as state assumed control over so many aspects of our lives. And citizens now are consumers of the government, consumers of mass media, consumers of these kinds of things. Let's talk about the mass media for just a minute. The mass media, gentlemen and ladies, control the elections. They're controlling this election right now. There are limits on finance. If you want to give a campaign contribution, you're limited to $2,700. The mass media can donate millions and millions and millions of dollars but the people they pick to promote on television. And they're doing it right now, millions of dollars, because the mass media is deciding who actually is going to be a candidate for president of the United States. States now are actually deciding who gets on the ballot based upon how many times people have been on television. That's true. It's really going on right now. Well, I'm here to say this. First of all, I'm running to recapture the United States of America for what it is and what it should be, people with liberties and freedoms in this country. That's what I'm running for. First, we have to recognize the challenges. We have to face the two challenges of Russia and China and North Korea and Iran. When I was in the service, we understood those issues. We understood that kind of state confrontation, but now we also have to rebuild our military. I will tell you what I will do. When I become president of the United States, the sequester limits will come off the defense budget and we will rebuild the United States military. We will refit the Army, give the Marine Corps their next combat brigade, which they need, and the Navy has to have more surface vessels so that we can keep the sea lanes open and confront these international challenges. On terrorism, sure, we'll do the fundamentals. We're going to rebuild the intelligence community, not so that they look at all of our email or all of our personal traffic, but so that they can get the job done, and I have the experience of that, of working in that community. We need to make sure our special forces are ready, that our police, fire, and rescue are ready. But more importantly than that, no other candidate will tell you this. We have to fight the war of ideas in the world today. And this enemy, which is radical Islamism, which believes that they have to have a jihad, and they're justified in attacking regular people and citizens out there, and that they have to have a Sharia law which controls everybody and everything, contrary to the Western ideas of a constitution and free liberties. We have to understand that that is our adversary, and we have to assert the American values of law and constitutionalism and liberty, and denounce the idea of the enslavement of women and cutting people's heads off and burning people up in cages. These are the things that have to be denounced strongly. It has to be denounced strongly by the President of the United States, the leader of the Western world, and President Jim Gilmore will do that. Now, one more thing. If I didn't mention it, I'm the only veteran in the race. I don't know. Did I mention that? All right. Look, I'm going to stand for the veterans. You cannot put American military people out there to fight our wars for us in this war of survival right now and tell them they're going to get veterans benefits and then deny it to the veterans. You can't do that. And President Gilmore will not do that. Veterans will receive the same standard of care as any civilian. Any civilian. And if they can't get out of the VA, which often they do, but if they can't, then we will make sure they get it in the private community. We will recognize post-traumatic stress disorder for what it is and the suicide dangers. We will understand these things in the Veterans Administration under my administration as President of the United States. We will recognize specific injuries like Agent Orange and oil fire battlefield dangers that we see from oil fires. And the appeals process will be cleaned up so that if veterans are denied, they don't just get a recording on the phone, they get a real chance to make their case as to why the veterans' benefits are right through the appeals process. These reforms are needed, ladies and gentlemen, and I tell you, as the veteran in this race, that I feel it in my gut because I've seen people, and I've worked with people, and I've served with people that give their lives for this country. This is what we must do. Now, the next thing we got to do is make sure we got a country that, in our way of life, that's worth preserving. If we're going to take it out there to the rest of the world and stand up for it. And the first thing we're going to do under a Gilmore administration is we're going to get this economy going. We have a slow growth economy right now. That means that young people can't get careers started. Older workers can't be secure in their jobs. Young people can't get jobs appropriate to their degrees. The growth is bad. Wages are stagnant. I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, liberal, or conservative. Everybody agrees that wages are stagnant. Under a Gilmore administration, they're going up. And here's how I'll do it. This is what I'll do. I'll repeal the bad laws which have damaged the growth of this economy by this Obama administration. The added taxes that they've put on investments, the inability of businesses to grow and to do things that are statutory right now. They've been designed to slow growth. And the regulatory society I talked to you about, Obamacare. Obamacare right now is stifling this economy. What idea did they have in the first place of nationalizing health care in this country? Obamacare has to go. We have to go back to a market-based system. The Environmental Protection Agency is controlling all business and all agriculture, for that matter, in this country. And nobody in this room is for dirty air or dirty water, but the fact is the EPA is out of control, and it has to be reined in by a strong president, and President Gilmore will do that. Education. They're determined right now to bring federalization to education across the United States through Common Core. I disagree with Jeb Bush and John Kasich. I've been there. I've been an education governor. I know what this means. Ladies and gentlemen, education belongs at the locality and supported by the state. There is no room for Common Core in education in this country. And finally, before David gives me the yank, I don't think he's ready to do that yet, thank God. Ladies and gentlemen, I serve on the national board of the National Rifle Association. The president talks about how he wants to just do certain little nibbles here and there. But his attack on gun rights and the Second Amendment in this country is based upon the premise that he wants to do away with all violence everywhere. That's what he says. We've got to do away with all violence everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no way to effectuate a policy like that other than the removal of all firearms from all people. That's what they want to do. I promise you this. If gun control legislation comes to my desk as President of the United States, I will veto it as fast as it takes Hillary Clinton to eliminate her emails. So, I'm coming to the end now. Folks, the networks are telling you who's going to be on the stage. They're only showing you the candidates they want to show you on the evening shows, on the Sunday morning shows, this very morning. They're only showing you the candidates they want to show you. Some of the people that you're seeing from this lectern at this very meeting, they're doing just fine by getting on these TV shows. They've been picked as the people that they want you to see. They can't tell you who to vote for. You decide who you're going to vote for. That's the reality. The Republican National Committee, and I used to be the chairman of the Republican National Committee for 1 year. The Republican National Committee could catastrophically bequeathed to the mass media who our nominee was going to be and what that process would be. That's what they did. They basically said to the media, you're going to run the debates. You're going to decide who's going to be in the debates. You're going to decide who's going to be on the main stage, who's going to be on the lower stage, and who's going to be on no stage. You're going to decide. You're going to pick polls, and you're going to pick the polls you want to pick in order to achieve the goal that you want to achieve. This is the mass media that is so much in control of our society today. They're limiting the capacity and the ability of people to know who the candidates are and what they really stand for. They are defining the choices. They're making the rules. And yet they are themselves exempt from the rules when they give all this free advertising to candidates of their choice. How many millions have they donated? How many polls have they picked out to rig the system, which they have certainly done? How do they decide who's going to be on stage and then get the poll numbers because they're the ones that are giving them the advertising by being on the stage? How do they pick these things? Interestingly enough, ballot access. Do you know that in I'm on a number of states. I'm on the ballot at this point in New Hampshire, South Carolina, Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Massachusetts, Idaho. I'm on these ballots But two states are very interesting. Michigan and Maryland each left me off of their ballot. And when I called them and say, what are you doing? I'm the former governor of the state of Virginia. I have paid staff in these states. I'm out here running for office. I'm going to South Carolina to see the Tea Party. What are you doing? And they said, well, we decided that we would see who the press were promoting on national TV, and we would pick that person to be on the ballot. Now, I think I'm making that up. That's actually what they told me. That's actually, which means that some nameless, faceless producer in the back room of MSNBC and CNN and Fox are deciding who's going to be the candidate or not officially in the states of this country. Not just in terms of propaganda, officially, who's going to be on the ballot. You, here in South Carolina, and the people in New Hampshire, have the ability to disrupt all this. You have the power to choose. You have the power to decide who's going to be the candidate and who's not. I am Jim Gilmore. I'm the former governor of the state of Virginia, and I'm asking for your vote. I want you to send them a message. I want you to vote for me in the South Carolina primary. I want you to send them a message that the people still rule and in the future will rule in the United States of America. So what do? Well, tell your friends, vote for me, donate to me, GilmoreForAmerica.com. Volunteer for me. I've got an assistant here in the room, Kristen Power. Where are you? Kristen, stand up. This is my assistant here in South Carolina, Kristen Power, right there. If you want to help me, give her your name. You don't even have to help me alone. You can help me with somebody else if you want to. That's okay with me. This is a big tent party we got this year, that's for sure. But if you'll vote for me, if you will have confidence in the experience and the ideas I've brought you today, not just a lot of bull and lather and blowhard, I've actually told you what I think is important and what I'm going to do. I've given you that. If any of you in this room have decided you want to support me, I'm asking for your support. And if I get it, I promise you this, the 21st century will mean a restoration of the power to the people of the United States, just like we declared in the Declaration of Independence. Thank you very much for the chance to be with you. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Well done.
You want to do some Q&A or are we done?
We're going to do some Q&A.
Well, thank you.
All right, couple things. We're going to do some Q&A with the governor. Peter's back there with the microphone. Same rules, raise your hand, and he'll come over to you. We'll just please go to your questions so we can get some time with the governor. And don't go anywhere, because I need you at the end. If you're thinking of leaving when the governor's done, I need you, and I'll explain. I'm not going to tell you when. It's a surprise. All right? Take it away. Let's see the hands. Who's got a question for the governor?
I think I've got a mic that works. I'm not sure. Yes, I
There
do.
you
I've
go.
got a mic that works. So what questions do you all have? Do you want to call on them, David, or shall I?
All right, let's go to the gentleman. Peter, let's follow Peter over there with the microphone. Go ahead.
Governor Gilmore,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for being here. Just a quick question. Will you please repeat exactly what you were told in regard to Michigan and Maryland? I'm not sure if I heard that right.
Yeah.
Will you please repeat what they told you?
It's very hard to believe. The standard that those two states, and I think it may be in some other states as well, is what candidates have been recognized by the national media and have been on television and recognized in the general discussion. Now, this is not political stuff, folks. This is official. The Secretaries of States of Maryland and Michigan, and I think they're one of them. Tennessee has a similar requirement. The difference is that Tennessee looked at all the press I've been getting in South Carolina and in New Hampshire and this past week in Florida and nationally and in other places, and they said, well, the guy's legit. What the heck? And so I was put on the ballot in Tennessee, but I was refused in Michigan and refused in Maryland, officially. By the way, both states have Republican governors, I might add.
All right, let's go across over there.
This is Doyle, and my question is, why do you believe that online sales should not be taxed?
Say again?
Why do you believe online sales should not be taxed?
Yep, and the reason is because of this. my goal is to reduce taxes on the American people as much as possible. That's my goal. It seemed to me that this was an opportunity for the people to have a chance to engage in commerce without additional taxation. At the time that we were doing it in the official commission, the internet was very new and very young. So the question came at that point, is this an opportunity for individual people to engage in commerce without the necessity of taxes? Now, if a company wants to collect them or a state wants to insist on it, so much the better. But in terms of a federal statute, our goal was to try to create a situation where people could engage as much as possible in communication and commerce without the taxation of the federal government. That was our philosophy, and that's what we did. And by the way, there was a lot of thinking that went into that. There was a lot of discussion back and forth. The issue, which I think you may be alluding to, is the fact that some people were saying, well, why is it fair to go into a store and pay a tax and to be online and not pay a tax? That was really the issue that was involved in there. Well, really, the commerce isn't exactly the same. If you're online, you may get it and you may not like it, it may not fit, it's a real problem, it's a different kind of commerce. You go to a store, you get it immediately, you take it home, you know it fits because you tried it on. So there's a difference in commerce, and that was a choice of the American people to figure out which way they wanted to go. But there were some people who wanted to clamp more and more taxes on. Look, I was the governor of a state, and I know this. The Congress and the state legislatures will tax every dime they can. They just will. And my goal, it seemed to me, was to liberate the American people and the people of my state, but the American people in that commission as much as I possibly could. It's my principle, and I've stood by it, and I stand before you today without having switched.
All right, now I just want to set this gentleman up because there's two rules. Go over here, Peter, take the microphone from him. You know how they say you never follow children or the circus? You have to follow a young lady. Just thought I could help you.
How will you protect us from ISIS? Because Obama's gonna let them all in, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I might add, by the way, I cut tuition 20% on the public universities of Virginia so this young lady could go to college cheaper. How about that? The question, obviously, that all heard, what are we going to do about ISIS? Well, look, there's military answers to ISIS. You can squeeze these people in. You can squeeze these people in. You can cut off their money, and you can cut off their resources, and you can do that through a good Navy and a good position. The problem we're facing today is that because of the weakness message that we've sent across the world today, we've enabled the Russians, my old friends the Russians, to get back into the game in Syria, and now it is infinitely much more complicated to try to deal with those kinds of issues. Theoretically, they're against ISIS, but they're really just mucking up the situation and making it more complicated for us to squeeze ISIS in. That's a military answer. And frankly, if you do the things that I said I will do and rebuild the United States military, we will have the capacity to be able to do this without putting a major army on the ground and getting us involved in a quagmire. I think we can go too far. I think we did in the past. But the real danger here is isolationism, the danger of pulling back until we see things like ISIS begin to emerge. But here's the better answer. The better answer is ISIS has to be understood as something much bigger than just that. The challenge is not just ISIS. The challenge is international radical Islamism, of which they are a part. Even if you eliminate ISIS, we have to fight the international guerrilla war worldwide, and we have to be prepared to sustain it. The American people have to be prepared for it. They need to understand it is a war, and it is a war for survival, and it is. I wouldn't rule out the fact that a weapon of mass, not to scare the young lady, but I wouldn't rule out the fact that at some point a weapon of mass destruction might be put into the hands of some of these people. And if something like that happens, we can't let it be a game changer that creates an authoritarian society in the United States. You need a president of the United States who's strong and prepared to respond to these things, but also protects our human and liberty values in the United States of America. I'm committed to it, and I have the background to do it, and I got the track record. So bottom line is, let's look at the big picture. I might add, by the way, I flew this morning to Richmond International Airport just to come here. Yesterday morning, there was an arrest made at the Richmond International Airport of a young man from Woodbridge, Virginia, who was on his way to ISIS. right? So, I mean, ISIS is the problem, and this guy was arrested, and you're right to clap. Well, let's recognize that guy was in Woodbridge, Virginia. So we have to win the war of ideas. As President of the United States, I understand this, and we will. I promise you this, the President will speak out on our values and the fact that we are right and they are wrong.
Now you have to follow a young lady.
Thanks, David.
Anytime, glad to help.
Thank you, Governor. You touched on something that has kept me up at night. It's just maddening, talking about the left-wing mainstream media. I think a lot of folks don't realize that they've been picking the Republican candidate for president since 2008. One by one, they knock off the front runners until they give us the person who they want to run as the biggest mismatch in terms of the Democratic candidate over the Republican candidate, okay? I watched them tear Carson apart this year as soon as he got to the top. Now they're going after Cruz, okay? They are going to settle on the person that they want to face Hillary based on the polls of a head-to-head competition. And right now that's Trump, and I'm sorry, you Trump supporters, I don't mean to badmouth him, but I think that they take advantage of an uneducated voting public, okay?
All right, you've got to go to the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I like to talk. That's my
Next
problem.
year you can be the speaker.
I couldn't
Yes.
say it better. I couldn't say it better myself.
The question
but
is,
keep going. What's your question?
what do we do to stop it? Because it just seems like a machine that we cannot stop.
Yeah, and it is. And what I described in my original talk was the state of affairs today that we're in, and that is the absolute control of information by the television people. I think we have to create a culture of citizenship, a culture of citizenship where citizens know that they have to be informed and they have to participate. This is why, you know, I haven't really been a person who's condemned the Tea Party. I condemn a lot of stuff, and almost got ran out of me the other day because I opposed another candidate, and I learned how to not do that. But I haven't been criticizing the Tea Party, and the reason is because I think the Tea Party is a natural manifestation of the desire and the instinct of people to want to be good citizens, and to want to be knowledgeable citizens, and want to lead within their communities. That's what I think. So the answer is this: I think we have to encourage all different forms of media outlet. We have to encourage our neighbors to not just simply passively tune. We've become very passive people. The television age has made us passive people. We sit in front of the tube and listen to Morning Joe, who I like, by the way. I watch him every morning, so I know what the enemy's thinking. And you know, and I haven't been invited on Morning Joe, and that's probably because I said it had become Morning Trump. But that's okay. Never mind. That's all right. Trump's gotten a lot of free media. Let's face it. And it's worth millions of dollars. But nevertheless, the real point is, the answer is that we have to create a new culture in this country, a new culture of citizens who are willing to stand up and say, my responsibility and duty is not only to participate and to gain knowledge and make my own decisions, but to lead others in the community. And I think that's what the Tea Party's role is and can be. And that's why I came down here.
All right. Thank you, Governor Jim Gilmore.
That's it.
Great to see you, sir.
Thank you, David.